I believe that their freedom is already inside, right? It's not the outside. We have to learn to live from the inside out, right? So no matter what happens in your environment, you cannot allow that to dictate how you're going to feel. I believe that the world had kind of a universal reset. There are people also, Ryan, who have made more, impacted more, done more during these year and a half that we've been going through this than they ever have in their lifetime. It has allowed us who choose to go inward now and really start to spend some time and get to know ourselves.
Hey everybody, Ryan Hodge here from the realty firm, Ryan Hodge Coaching and Consulting and the Integrity Vow. And this is the Rise Up podcast, where each and every week we're bringing in different guests to support you in your professional and personal growth. And I am so excited to welcome Jon Talarico today. Jon is one of the top 5 Proctor Gallagher coaches worldwide and runs one of the most successful masterminds for thinking into results students that I've ever seen. Jon, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here.
Wow, great introduction. Thank you, Ryan. Humbled and honored to be here. Really, it's super exciting.
So take us inside of, who you are, because I mean, this is a lot for people in the real estate industry. I think that right now, more than ever, our industry is, begging for more people like yourself that are focusing on, much more important things than just sales, and how to really literally use their minds, tap into their potential, and create the results that they desire. So what led you to, get to this point in your own coaching experience?
Sure. Well, if you are born and raised in Flint, Michigan, Ryan, it's something will lead you to get out of there, right? It was I love my hometown, but boy, I grew up listening to Les Brown on the radio, and that my grandma used to make me listen to him every Sunday night, and that gave me some hope. And I think all of us need that one person, Ryan, that believes in us, and when we don't really believe in ourselves so much. So that started it, and then that led to books like Think and Grow Rich, following Bob Proctor, Og Mandino, The Secret, the 4-Hour Work Week and all that stuff. So I always knew that, and I believe this for you and all your listeners, that there's a reason we're here. And I believe that we are, whatever God you choose to believe, his highest form of creation. And while we're here, they can disagree about the before and after, but while we're here, we're really here to find and tap into how magnificent each and every one of us are, and find that greatness and then bring it out to help impact and change the world. So it took me a long time to get here, Ryan. And so if anything, what I teach now is to let people know that they don't have to wait. They don't have to spend decades or sometimes even their whole life thinking that things are not possible. Because what I've learned to understand and believe fully in my heart and soul is that anything's possible, and it can happen very quickly.
You talk about, collapsing time in a lot of the work that you teach. And I want to really dive into, exactly what your program, how your mastermind works is about. You didn't just, listen to Les and have, like great, inspiration, and then all of a sudden become one of the top coaches on the planet. What were you doing, beforehand, and what led you to say, I want to do this and I want to serve and support other people, in this work as well?
Well, that's a great question, Ryan. And I had spent decades doing stuff that I thought that other people wanted me to do, even that I thought were going to fill a need for me, which I realized was my ego. And I had to, things happen with what's been going on in the world, and all of the opportunities that I was involved in kind of dried up. But more importantly, I saw a picture of my 2 kids one day, and they're 5. My daughter lives there in Toronto, and my son is 4. And I realized one day they're going to ask me, Dad, what is it that you do? And I've been very blessed to meet and have relationships and partnerships with amazing people, but I wasn't building anything for myself, Ryan. And while I speak a lot on self-image and all of that we have those 2 self-images, the ones that we project to the outside world, that everything's okay, that no problem, life is great. But then there's the one on the inside, and I was silently suffering, living an unfulfilled life. And year after year was going by, and say, I'm going to eventually get started, but I call it the committee here, to keep me stuck. And finally, I just said, enough. I had to be honest with myself, look in the mirror and say, I'm not very happy with where I'm at, not very happy with who I am, and make some hard changes and say, you know what? I know too much about how the world works, how the universe works, spirit, God, and I need to get moving, right? Because the clock is ticking. And I said, I'm going to go back to what I really wanted to do my whole life, which was to teach and coach people, Ryan. I love to teach. I went to school, I went to college. When I said, I'm going to get out of Flint, Michigan and see the world, I said, I'm going to be a teacher. And I went to school, got a degree in history. And then what happened? Everyone's, John, why you want to be a teacher? They don't make any money.
Right.
I did the complete opposite, right? I went and got an MBA in finance and then proceeded to get fired from every job I had because
Sure.
I wasn't happy. And I believe for all of us, if we're not doing what we truly love, then you're not living a joy-fulfilled life. And that's not what life is about. We have to realize that we want to do what we love. We want to fall in love with a goal. We have to set goals and get that burning desire. Now back to your question about how you can collapse time. When you have an understanding about how the universe works, how goal achievement works, you can shorten the distance between anything. So many of us think that to achieve the goal you want, that you have to have certain qualifications or things behind you on your wall, that you have to have a certain upbringing, that you have to have a certain education, amount of money, connections. I had no connections when I started, right? Nobody knew me. And so when you do things in a certain way, you can get whatever you want. And that requires you to live from your higher mental faculties. And we're never programmed or taught to do that. We're taught to gain information during school, to memorize stuff. And on a certain day, Ryan, if you know 18 out of these 20 questions, Ryan, you are smart. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever you want. And if you get 12 right, you're going to be a policeman, or you're going to end up working on the assembly line. So that's not the kind of information that people need to hear and understand. They need to understand how goal achievement works, how to set a goal, and then how to achieve it. That requires us to understand the magical gifts that we have, right? And you're one of the most amazing at doing that, is that you understand we have this imagination. We want to use that to go and dream again and to see the wish fulfilled. I always talk about see your wish fulfilled, but we have to dream and we have to set a goal. We have to figure out what is it that we truly want. And that requires us to use our imagination. The great news is that you don't have to hurry. You don't have to be anxious, because everything you want is already here. You're already there. The place that you want, you're already there. It's just a raising your awareness to know that everything's already here. And we want to live, don't want to go too far out there for the real estate community, Ryan, but you really want to live in that fourth dimension, right? It's where you use your imagination. It's where all great things happen, inventions, advancements over the course of human history. It's being able to drown out what we've been programmed to live by, those five senses, right? Our sensory factors. Stop what our conscious mind, our intellect tells us, what are our limiting beliefs, and that we have to have A, B, C, and D to order to achieve what we want. And know that we can have anything we want, and we can have it quickly. It just requires you to make a decision, a committed decision. And you combine that with burning desire and discipline, Ryan, and accountability. That's really the insurance policy to success. And I'm a great example that when you're on point, when you love what you do, you can have whatever you want very quickly. Sure. I had no coaching experience. I launched this over not even been a year now, Ryan. July 27th, I signed up my first client.
I didn't know that. I thought this was a lot longer term for you. Good for you. Wow.
July 27th, client number one, Ryan. And so now I just actually was on this morning. The top 5 of us are on with Bob every couple of weeks. So, but it's not about me. It's about the ideas and the material that I teach. And that, Bob's been doing this for 60 years, and he'll be the first to tell you, he doesn't have any secret other than he's just been a very good student, as have I. I study, and you want to get a mentor. You want to study and understand how you can achieve goals. That requires you to just decide what it is that you truly want. That's the only prerequisite for a goal, is you have to want it.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. And I was actually accepted. I had a sociology degree, Bachelor of Arts in Sociology and Psychology. And then I thought, I'm going to be a teacher as well. And same thing, everybody's saying you're not going to make a lot of money. And I realized more so that I enjoyed coaching, some different sports and things like that. And, I went down the real estate road, made a ton of money, but then same sort of thing as far as not being totally fulfilled in it. Something had to change, hence, coaching in the industry and whatnot. One of the things that people often ask is, why do you get involved with other trainers? Why do you get involved with, your own coaches, things like that? And I just look at, if we're not constantly growing, I mean, it's our spiritual need to continually grow. And so, when I looked at your group and the mastermind, it's a no-brainer for me, because you're tapping in with something completely different in, I would say, easily one of the greatest masterminds out there right now, especially from, the ability to facilitate it, because it's not hard to facilitate usually 100 people, I think, most weeks plus. And so some of the things that I've noticed along the way, and one of the things that I'm aware of with you, is that you're considered a connector. Tell us about that, because that's a pretty special word, and I've gotten to experience it, but maybe you can talk about connectivity, how that unfolds for people in the way that it's worked for you.
Great question, Ryan. And I do believe that everything that we're here to do is all about the power of connection. We're here to we're all in this together. And you're a great example of what you said earlier about other coaches, and you have that creative mindset, Ryan. You understand that supply is unlimited. That's why I have coaches in my mastermind and promote them as well. Why? Because there's enough for all of us, right? We come from that abundance mindset. We don't worry about competing other than against and being a better version of ourselves.
Yes, for sure.
The connector is the thing, people have told me that over the years, right? Oh, you're a connector. And I used to not like that word. Why? Because a lot of people use that word. And I just realized over the years, I have this wonderful ability. I've learned to build and create amazing relationships around the world. People like Les Brown, who's my client. Bob and I have done several deals together and made him millions of dollars. Akon, I traveled the world with him. Damon John, and we shared an office in the Empire State Building. So enough people kept saying it to me, Ryan. I'm like, okay, well, maybe that is my one unique skill, the ability to help people to connect. And then I got asked, well, how do you build these relationships and connections? Because people always say, well, that's easy for you, John. You have these people. But at one point, nobody knew me, Ryan. Mm-hmm. And I just made a decision that I was going to find something unique to connect with somebody that I wanted to develop a relationship with. Now, these are connections, not photo ops or where you run and take the selfie. Yeah. These are people that are in my phone that I've done business with. And so the first one I started on was with Bob Proctor, because I wanted to understand my thinking, because I heard him say that if I just change my thoughts, I could change my results. And what I think we all need to do when you want to develop a relationship with someone is you have to listen. You have to do your research and find out what's important to them. That's how all my top relationships have been created, is that I listened to what was important to them. So when you want to create a relationship with someone at the top of your industry, Ryan, they have plenty of money. They're at the top of their career. So then what is it that you could do differently than everyone else? Because someone always wants a piece of it. Mm-hmm. And most people, when they say that I want to build this relationship, it's because they have an ulterior motive. It's what's in it for me. People come to me all the time with whether it be with Les or with Akon or all these others. Hey, I have a great opportunity where we can make a ton of money. Well, they already have a ton of money. Mm-hmm. So 1 out of 100, 1,000 maybe come and say, hey, I see you're doing this event. Can I do anything to help? Mm-hmm. Can I volunteer? So what I teach is that I call it little things for big connections. You don't want to buy your way into anyone, but you want to do these little things for big connections. And so how do you do that? Well, you have to be unique. My relationship with Bob Proctor started with a $5 record album on eBay, because I went to a seminar, Bob's Paradigm Shift, for 2.5 days. And I sat there. He didn't know who I was. But I made a decision that somehow, some way, and that's why we all get hung up on how it's going to happen. Don't worry about that. I said, somehow I'm going to be in his inner circle and be working with him. I had no idea how it was going to happen. I didn't have any money and no connections. But I sat there for 2.5 days, and that man played one song, right, for 2.5 days. I mean, one song. Morning, break, come back from the break, lunch, back.
Right.
And by Sunday night, everyone was like, I'm just like, we know this song now, but it must be something special to Bob. There's something about that song. Otherwise, he would not have them play it. So I went to Google, looked up Johnny Nash. It's going to be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. And I said, I have an idea. And that's where we want to use our intellect and our imagination. I wonder if he's still alive. And I went to Google, where we all go for our research, right? And found out he was alive, but he was a recluse. No website, hadn't been seen in public in 30, 40 years, doesn't go out really, doesn't perform, no contact information. And then this is where we also have to be persistent and willing to do whatever it takes. I kept digging and digging and digging until I found a court document that had a phone number. Called it up, and it was his wife, and said, "Ma'am, Bob is a big fan of yours, Bob Proctor. He's turning 80. Could you get your husband to sign and autograph an album to him?" Sure enough.
Wow.
So when you do now, for all of you, when you do get that opening, always be prepared and make it as easy as possible for the other person that you're trying to connect with. So I sent the record, Ryan. I sent the marker. I sent the tape. I sent the packaging to send it back. I sent the postage. Make it as easy as possible for that other person. And then, sure enough, I got it back, framed it, Ryan. Now, you want to make sure you guys include your name in there, right? I put a little metal plaque myself. Thank you for helping me see clearly, Bob. Jon Talarico. He still didn't know who I was. I dropped it off at his next event. And from there, Ryan, now that hangs in his office over there in Toronto. He tells that story often. And he had me come back to the event, and his son hunted me down. And that was a start. Now, if I worried about how all that was going to happen, I'd still be sitting here wondering how I'm going to meet Bob. We have to be willing to move with unwavering faith, use our imagination, be unique. Most people are, so worried about doing things like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so,
it's interesting how that, unfolds, but just how far it's gone, because I think unless you're you've been hiding under a rock for the last 30 years, most people know who Bob Proctor is. But for those that don't, I would say one of the great spiritual teachers, mentors, coaches of our time, and certainly beyond some of our time as well. In terms of thinking into results, the program that him and Sandy Gallagher created, I think for both individuals and for organizations. What led you down that road? Did you consider other options, or was that always the one that you were destined to teach, or that you were determined to teach and facilitate as well?
I've always had my foot in, one foot in personal development, the other foot into doing other stuff, Ryan. And when I looked and went fully in, I looked at all the people out there. There's nobody who's done more for the industry than Tony Robbins, right? The personal development.
Sure.
Tony motivates people and all that stuff. I wanted to gain understanding through knowledge of stuff that was more something that I could then go and teach. Now, that led me to Bob. Bob has been doing this and studying this one book, Think and Grow Rich, for 60 years. The man worked with Earl Nightingale, and this is all he does. And he'll be 87 on July 5th. He's still going strong. He showed up this morning for our meeting, always dressed in a shirt and tie. And this is what he does. And he will tell you, this is not about Bob Proctor. It is about the ideas and information that are contained within thinking into results. It is a goal achievement system. It's a way of life. And it's not that it's any secret, but it's that there is an exact blueprint of how the universe works. And it's all based on law. And if you can just develop the awareness to know that you have everything you already need, Ryan, that you can live from the end, as Neville Goddard talks about, right? In Power of Awareness. You can live from the end, use your imagination, and then move with calmness. That's where a lot of us gets hung up again, is that we can't see it, so we don't believe it, right? Seeing is not believing at all. It's the believing is the seeing part. That requires faith. And it goes against everything we've been raised to believe, because we've been taught to live from our five senses.
Yeah. The key word that came up when I first started into the program was paradigm. Can you shed some expert opinion on paradigms and what paradigms may mean for those that have not really, I guess,
I would be happy to, Ryan.
Great.
I did not know you were going to ask that, but I keep this on my desk, right? This is about a paradigm shift. And that's the seminar. The name of the seminar I went where I first met Bob Proctor. Paradigms are a set of mental programs that are habitual. Most of all of our behavior is habitual, right? The way you got up this morning, the side of the bed, the way you got dressed, we're creatures of habit. And so we have developed these paradigms, these habits over the years. Now, most of those are already put in place by the time we're age 7. The program is already set. You buy a new computer, you buy a phone, there's stuff already installed on there that you guys will never know it's even on there, but it is running behind the scenes. Well, what we have are these paradigms, these habits that are running behind the scenes, that are causing us to think small, that are causing us to not believe that we can achieve whatever we want, to not believe when I tell you, Ryan, you can have your goal achieved tomorrow. Some people come to me and say, I want to earn $500,000 by the end of the year. Okay, well, they could do it today. They could do it tomorrow. They just don't believe it. But two questions. Are you able to do it? Of course, people will make $500,000 today, right? Are you willing to do what it takes? And that's where people start to come up with the story from the committee and from the paradigms. Well, that's not logical. No, that they have to have connections. They have to have money to make money. All the stories, those are just excuses. So when you start to understand paradigms, when you start to realize and have the awareness, say, whoa, I realize right now that I do want to earn that, or I want to leave my job. Or a lot of your community are real estate professionals. So maybe some of you want to hit some goals, double, triple, quadruple those for the end of the year. And then what are your paradigms will tell you, well, that's not possible. If I could just increase 10% this year. Well, of course you can increase 100%, 200% when you change your thinking. And most of success, I believe, is 95% in your thinking, 5% strategy. So you go back to understanding and having the awareness to recognize your habits. And then you work to override and rewrite and reprogram yourself for success. And then how do you change and how do you have a shift in your paradigm? You first of all have to recognize you have them. You have to recognize where you're making your decisions from, right? That your results are a direct reflection of the thoughts, feelings, and actions you have taken. Those have all been because of the old model. You look at the results and that causes you to think a certain way. Well, last year I only made 50,000. This year I'm going to shoot and try for 55,000. Versus the new model, which says, I don't care what I did last year. I know everything's already here. So I'm just going to make a decision that this year I'm going to make 200,000. I don't know how it's going to happen, but now I'm going to do things in a different way. I'm going to do things in a certain way. And I'm going to start to develop the awareness to know that when those limiting beliefs come, I'm going to thank them and tell them, not today. And then do what, Ryan? We also have to do. We have to take massive daily action. And in your industry, every industry, you need to track what you're doing every day. So you're real estate people. Why would you ever want to let anything outside of yourself dictate your financial future? So many of us think that our money comes from our company. No, it comes through our company. We decide what we're worth and what we want to earn. And again,
it's so true. So true. With real estate, I've never had any challenge, generating revenue, or finding more people. I think that is one thing that I've taught over the years. If you take, a specific amount of action in specific areas, the results are irrefutably going to come. There's no worries for it. When I joined into your program, I was looking for different, dynamics to, the personal growth of my own, learning from others. You've got some amazing people in your group. Do you find that, because, and for those of you, that aren't familiar with Jon, the mastermind that he facilitates, the Thinking into Results program is taught at a very, very high and specific level with specific daily accountability. In fact, my partner, Sandra, she's in a different Thinking into Results program. And I would say that the consistency that you facilitate, Jon, is absolutely crucial to the success, certainly that I'm having as well. But you have gotten people from all walks of life, from all over the world into your group. How do you teach, the principles for people that want many different things, or is it that they, in one way or another, want the same thing?
I think when you look at the end of the day, Ryan, everyone wants the same thing. What do they want? They want more freedom, right? They want more freedom to do the things that they love to do, to spend time with the loved ones. And a lot of times they'll focus on money, but it's not the money they want. It's what the money brings, which is joy, freedom to do whatever they want. And so, yes, I have people who've borrowed money. I have people who've sold their car to get into the program. I have Hall of Fame football players I have other 7-8 figure professionals who've reached the top of their career, but they want something more. So the reason I'm able to teach this stuff is for anybody. I've got now a 19-year-old kid. I'm super excited about that.
It's amazing. 19.
19 years old. Just imagine, Ryan, if we had this at 19. Now working with a professor at Yale University, and we're actually developing a portal that will measure weekly results so that now we can take this data. We have quantifiable data that, okay, Ryan, you checked in and did the daily work I suggest everyone do every day this week. You watched lesson 6 on, for example, self-image. And these are the quantifiable results you achieved this week. We celebrate wins each week. And so now we're going to actually put this in a portal form where we'll have data be able to go out to large corporations and seek grants and donations to then take this to the schools. That is my ultimate goal, is to get this into the schools and into the youth. And so these are universal principles. That's why they work for anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself why. You can have two real estate people in your company, Ryan. Identical qualifications, experience, training, education. Everything's identical. Work in the same communities. And why is one making 3, 4, 5 times more than the other?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's amazing. I mean, the real estate industry, our average realtor North America wide sells usually less than 5 homes a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think average income is about 37,000, where, the people that I've been fortunate to work with or meet over the years, many of them are 7-figure earners.
Mm-hmm.
And the potential for anybody is there, but it is, why do some succeed, do the things that they know they need to do, where many do not make that decision? Do you believe that much of this does come down to that, personal responsibility factor, personal choice?
I think, I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan. There is that gap, right? There is a gap between what people know and what they do. A lot of us have tons of information. We have a lot of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't necessarily do what we know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it all goes back to what that word you brought up earlier, paradigms. They control us. And so when you have somebody who's only making 37, 40,000, they don't have the mindset to believe that they can make 200,000. They have to learn to change that mindset. That requires recognizing your old paradigms and then overriding those with new ones. That's not easy to do, Ryan, but it takes discipline. It takes us getting uncomfortable. And we have to be able to, one, not worry about how it's going to happen, not worry about what's happened up until now, but we have to then set a goal. And I think most people are just simply existing or going through life because they, one, don't have a goal. And if they do, it's maybe not the right goal.
Mm-hmm.
You should be fired up, excited, jumping out of bed. When you have your goal, Ryan, we write them down and looking at that thing and being fired up. You don't have time to say things like I'm feeling stuck or asking everyone else, Ryan, what do you think I should do? What do you guys think I should do? No, because you move now with confidence and that calmness, knowing it's already done. You're already there where you want to go. Remember, when you set a goal, their place is an actual place.
Mm-hmm.
You're already there the minute you decide it. Now, remember, the state of mind must be not just simply wishing or hope. I believe Napoleon Hill said this, right? It said the state of mind must be belief. And most of us don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all goes back to, we have a self-image challenge. I think that is a core challenge for most people, is that our self-image. And I know I suffered
Sure.
for decades, Ryan.
Sure.
I would not even look myself in the mirror.
Mm.
I would wash my face on an angle, hoping I didn't even catch a glimpse of who I was, because I was so disappointed in myself, so ashamed of what I'd gone through, but then also the choices I made over the decades, and really not knowing that I was not living up to my full potential.
Sure. The work that, I've really paid close attention to with Bob, he talks about, change happens with, emotional impact, or with constant spaced repetition. So something like 9/11, certainly an emotional impact that's usually going to, create a negative change in the way that we think and act. One thing that I've observed, and I know, where we are, this is our 3rd stay-at-home order up here in Ontario. And I think that at the start of this, some people did have that emotional impact where, they shut down, where others, really started to adapt quickly. They didn't pay as close attention to it. But over time now, it's really starting to wear on people. And it's almost a constant spaced repetition of this pandemic in a negative way. Can you lend any advice or insight on how does somebody snap out of this? Because I deal with a lot of people that are just still down and out. They're frustrated. They want their freedom back.
Yeah, I get it. I believe that their freedom is already inside, Ryan. It's not the outside. We have to learn to live from the inside out, right? So no matter what happens in your environment, you cannot allow that to dictate how you're going to feel. I believe that the world had kind of a universal reset. There are people also, Ryan, who have made more, impacted more, done more during these year and a half that we've been going through this than they ever have in their lifetime. It has allowed us who choose to to go inward now and really start to spend some time and get to know ourselves. And that makes us uncomfortable. And then it's easy, Ryan. Why? Because when we get uncomfortable, we like to revert back to our old way where it's safe, living from our five senses. So if you go inward and you're in lockdown and you start to ask yourself what's happening and you start to pay attention outside, you're not going to be happy. But if you start to go inward and pay attention what's going on inside and ask yourself some questions, what is it that you would really love to do? And then say, I'm going to do whatever I want right now. You have a great opportunity. And so it's always about finding the lesson in everything and finding, choosing the positive thought rather than the negative one. So where is the opportunity right now for you and those of you who are getting frustrated? Believe me, I'm as frustrated as most people, Ryan. I could choose to dwell on that. My daughter's there in Toronto. I haven't seen her since last October. She's going to be 6. But what can I do to not be at the impact of that? Well, I can continue to build my business, impact people so that when it opens up there, I can get there quickly. Now I have a community up there that I know you and several other clients are up there.
Definitely.
And
It's so accurate. I know that, our organization, when we hit, I think April or May last year, we're down about 40%. And as a company that, has been through a thing or two, and, we looked at it, my partner, Sandra, and I, we said, we're just going to focus on what we can control and adapt to what we can't. So we put our old sales hats on and went out and sold a lot more real estate for stabilization. But then we looked at how can we wake up each and every day and help other human beings inside of our company to succeed. And by the end of the year, you're way beyond where you were the year before. Peaks and valleys through it, sure. So my question to you, for somebody that, supports people at such a high level, what do you do for your own motivation and inspiration?
That's a great question, Ryan. And I shared earlier, I was on a call this morning with the 4 other people that are in the top 5 and Bob Proctor himself. And I asked him that question. I said, Bob, how do you stay emotionally involved on a daily basis in your goal? On a daily basis, because you have to be emotionally involved in your goal, right? You have to really fall in love with it. And so he said, John, read me your goal. And I read it to him. He says, maybe that's a B-type goal. Bob calls those things that if everything lines up, you achieve them, not C-type goals, which are wants and really something you've never done before. And he got me thinking again. And again, I realized and recognized that I was operating from that limiting mindset. And so you want to always ask yourself, what is it that you want? And then you have to surround yourself, Ryan, with like-minded people. You have to study. You have to always be studying. You have to have a mentor. Even I have a mentor, right? This is the journey doesn't end. And so you want to pick a mentor and always be studying new material. And then why? Because I have an obligation to my clients to be the best coach I could possibly be. Not for their results, but to their results, in the sense that I'm giving them everything they need. And as you mentioned earlier, accountability is so important. It is really the insurance policy to success. We have that daily accountability group. And it's not to make anyone feel bad, but it's an awareness exercise, because the results will always tell who's doing the work on a daily basis.
Well, and what you've done masterfully, I think, is lay out, a specific series of, I call them rituals. I don't know if that's the same protocols, rituals.
Yes.
What I know is that when I get my rituals done, and I'm pretty consistent that way. I've got to get a little more consistent in other areas, but with this program, I've been ultra consistent, and it's morning and night. And a lot of coaches, it's just about that morning ritual. What I find is that in doing this work, you just feel better too. You feel better, you build that confidence, the self-image continues to improve, and then things just naturally start to unfold. And I mean, I've had a few wonderful natural unfoldings through this program that we're still a ways out before I complete it. And it's amazing to see what you're doing with people, because I get to hear the stories of this mastermind.
Yeah, it's a daily success ritual, Ryan, I call it, right? And I actually recorded a video this morning. This is what all my clients get, AM and PM, and it's creating a daily success ritual that's trackable and where you're taking massive action. And that's really what will get you the results you want. And so that's where you really see people's paradigms creep up, Ryan. And like, well, that I don't have time, and yet they'll go binge out on Netflix for 7-8 hours, but they won't do this, which is 45 minutes to an hour per day, every day, right?
Sure. It's simple. It's the simplicities, the tiny hinges that swing some pretty big doors. You've been swinging massive doors for people and helping them in their growth. What is next for you over the next 6 months, 12 months, into the future? Because you obviously continue to create more goals. The school part of it sounds like it, but tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, that's my main focus right now, Ryan, is to really get this portal done so that we now have quantifiable data to take this thinking into results into the schools. And that's my main goal, my main focus for this year.
Awesome.
On that, I'm always focused on my big C type goal, which is to impact and influence 1 million people or more. Bring this material to them so that they have an understanding and they have the knowledge and ability to realize that they can become whatever they want. And that their lives and possibilities are unlimited.
Well, you're doing that exceptionally well, my man. I appreciate you and all that you do. Where is the best place that people can find you, your group, get involved? I will certainly post it all over.
Sure, Ryan. Well, they can join my private Facebook group. Go to Million and You, the Million and You. Then it's my kind of brand. I believe that all of us have that million in you, right? That one unique thing we do better than anyone else. You can find me also at JonTalarico.com. Set up a call if you'd love to speak to me. Get a hold of Ryan as well. I would love to talk to you about how I can help you set and achieve your goals in rapid time. And find me on social media as well at Jon Talarico, Ryan, on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, congrats on all the success. Congrats on the recent engagement. So happy for you on that. And congrats on continuing to inspire people all over the planet. It's been amazing.
Thank you,
to
Ryan,
connect.
very much. Yes, this program also works in your personal life. So it's a goal set, whatever you want. Ryan, really honored and humbled to be here. Appreciate it. Congratulations on all the amazing results and the amazing work you're doing with everything that you do. And I will see you next week.
Good stuff. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in today. Jon Talarico guest, Thinking into Results, one of the top 5 Bob Proctor coaches in the world, which is massive, and continues to serve, lead, and inspire so many people in positive ways. We will continue to bring on guests that do things a little bit differently for you inside and outside of the real estate industry, focusing on the things that matter most when it comes to mindset. So thanks for being here on Rise Up, and we'll talk again real soon.